Tonight, see what truly exists inside the world of the paranormal. Inside. Join the discussion and review some of the best paranormal evidence captures from a wide variety of experienced and up-and-coming investigators. See and hear what they capture, where they captured it, and how they captured it. Right now on Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. Again, I am Chris.
I'm still Audra.
I'm still Tony.
And I'm still Cherie.
I'm Ron, and more importantly, I don't know where I am.
Oh my God.
How did you do that without your lips moving?
Can we bring that up on... Show the video.
I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am.
Well, you're lucky Anthony's not there yet.
He tunes in late, I know.
That is awesome.
That's funny.
That's too funny.
Everybody have a good week?
Yeah. I'm in a new one, so I'm thinking, okay, what was last week like?
I know.
Yeah.
Last week was when you had that interview with that podcast, that awkward podcast. I mean, it ruins my entire week and the weekend. And probably
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. But I'm happy because I don't have work today. And
Yay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you guys do anything paranormal this weekend?
No, not this one. We didn't.
Yeah, just,
They did.
yeah, Ron and
What'd you do, Ron?
You guys did, right, Ron?
No, this weekend we actually I had my son for the weekend, and then we just worked on some stuff. I worked on stuff for the third book is coming out soon. I just got the cover art to approve, and I started banging out the fourth one, and just some prep and planning.
It looked really good.
Yeah, they have Beyond the Fray has really talented artists. The people who do their cover art are really, really, really good. That was it. We didn't have a lot. We kept this month a little bit low key because we knew that March was going to be busy. So we have a few different library events, and then we have the House in Between weekend and a couple of days in New Orleans. So it was nice to kind of just take it easy.
Yep.
Wow, usually we don't do anything. Well, you didn't. Audra was traveling to work in Austin.
I thought you guys went to that.
No, I went to PPIT. Scott and Everett, who just jumped in, invited me to join them on an emergency private investigation where they were having poltergeist activity in a home, and it was pretty nasty. It was I don't want to say too much because it was a private, but Scott's team, he's building a really good, solid team. You want to see a team that represents the paranormal community and does a great job at it. That's PPIT up north in North Carolina, up by Winston-Salem. That house we went into was the owners were pretty scared, but we ended up doing a blessing, getting rid of a dark spirit that was pretty nasty. So it was an interesting thing. It was some satanic pagan type stuff that was happening in the house that shouldn't have been. I won't say too much because Scott and those guys are going to actually book a date with the show and be on there and maybe have some of the evidence from what he finds from the evidence review. But it was a pretty good investigation. So,
And that was this past weekend?
Yeah, that was Saturday night. I'm still a little tired from it. I'm either too old or I have a paranormal hangover. One of the two. Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got a really good, solid team. That it'd be nice to have them back on the show again. So
Yeah. It'd be nice to see some evidence from them again. Yep.
speaking of somebody on the show,
endorsement from Kate
today.
What's that?
Nice endorsement.
Loki.
Yes, Lourdes not feeling 100% today. Her back was bothering her. She was plagued with allergies a little bit. And for her to miss this show, and Chris, of course, you'll do the introduction because you were the man. But we've had the opportunity to work with this guy. He runs the Hanover Tavern Paracon. We were honored to be a part of this year. Not surprised that he had fantastic stuff to submit. One of the people, and we say this often because we have those type of people on this show, right? That's our benchmark, I hope, who knows how to treat people really well. He's kind and respectful. He's really good at what he does. And when he does an event, he's part of an event, quality, always quality. And he's apparently watching his own show because it just
he's sending in messages.
yeah. He's omnipresent. Apparently, it's
That's a great talent to have.
His personality in Gettysburg, he is great. Oh my gosh.
yeah, he's hilarious. He is hilarious.
And he will evidently be the first EVPE guest that heckles himself on the show. All right, guys, let's bring him in. This is Steve Dills. He's a paranormal investigator and founder of Transcend Paranormal. Everybody say hi to Steve.
Hey.
Hello,
Hi,
Steve. Welcome to the
Steve.
show.
How's it going, guys?
Wait,
And Ghost
there's
Finder.
one more. Hold on, wait. There's one more.
I told you. First one to heckle himself.
Hey, gotta keep it. You know, I got all these screens, so I gotta pull up the video and everything.
Awesome.
And for people who don't know him personally, he's not just doing that because he's on a show. That's him.
That's Steve. Yeah, that's Steve.
That's how he is.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah, I'm weird. Totally, 100%. So I got all the screens up because I want to make sure that I can see all the comments, and if anybody says anything, I want to be able to see everybody. So I've got over here, I've got StreamYard over here, I've got the Facebook stream, and then all my information. If everything I need to pull up is going to be on the screen up here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Very cool.
A lot of screens going on.
You just see Steve going like this all night long.
Yeah, you're gonna see me like this.
That's what I do.
All right, Steve, since this is your first time on, we always ask our guests to explain to our audience what got you involved in the paranormal besides the fact that you're weird.
Yeah. So yes, I was Melissa. I was the person that said first. So I got into the paranormal kind of at a young age. When I was probably in I want to say it was third or fourth grade. We moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia, where I am now, and we moved into this house rather quickly. Within maybe a month, we had packed up everything from my previous house, my life, everything that I knew, and we were in this brand new territory, right? This brand new place. Might as well have been Mars, because to me, as a young kid, I was just miles and miles away from everything I knew. My friends, family, everything. And believe it or not, this was before there were cell phones. So it wasn't as easy as just calling somebody or messaging somebody. We could email, but I was young. I didn't have an email. So I was very isolated. And I inevitably became fairly depressed and all that sort of, the fun things that come along with that. So we move into this new house, brand new building. And almost immediately things start happening. My mother starts seeing this woman that's in this gray hoop skirt, like a Victorian era hoop skirt, sees her walking throughout the house. I apparently drew the short straw on this one, because she sees stuff and that's it. Like, I, on the other hand, am getting things thrown at me, my doors opening and closing at night, hearing my name yelled at and screamed at and whispered at while I'm laying in bed. I got sick for a number of months when I first moved down there. Got absolutely sick. Doctors had no idea what was wrong with me. Finally, I just started to feel better. One of the weirder things that I was experiencing was doppelgangers in the form of our family dog. And I very vividly recall, just one example, being outside playing in the front yard, and watching our dog walk around from the side yard. And he was a pretty unique dog. He's a Sheltie Collie, and so I don't see that many Sheltie Collie mixes. Um, and it was a fairly busy neighborhood. It wasn't like we were out on some back road or anything. We were literally smack dab in the middle of suburbia. And I remember watching my dog walk around into the front yard, and I'm like, "You got to get inside. It's a fairly busy neighborhood, lots of cars driving through, and so I didn't want him to get hit." So I kind of like told him to get inside. He ran around the side to go into the garage, and I decided, let me make sure that he's actually inside. So I went in, and I found that not only was he inside, but he was passed out asleep on the couch, sitting next to my mom. And I remember telling her like that was, he fell asleep pretty fast, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's been sitting here for the last hour. She was watching some horrible midday television show, uh, and and the dog was sitting there and had fallen asleep. So whatever I had seen that ran into the house, I have no idea. Wasn't the dog. And
Wow.
we had that. I had that happen a number of times. Um, One of the scariest experiences I had was watching this giant, almost like the size of a basketball, red orb float into the room that I was in. Um, and as a young kid, that scared the ever living hell out of me. And so I remember just screaming, absolutely screaming, bloody murder. And my parents came up. They're like, "What's going on? What's going on?" Um, and I was telling my dad that like whatever this thing was flew into their closet. They had a walk-in closet. And so he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go check it out." I'm like, "No, no, no, don't go. It's gonna get you." And of course he walks in, there's nothing in there. Uh, but it was like one of those things where I was like, that scared the hell out of me. Um, we lived there for 2 years. And as my mother says, 2 years too long. As soon as we moved, everything stopped. Nothing came with me. Um, I don't know to this day what that was. Have not stepped back foot into the building or into the house at all, obviously. And I don't think I would go and just knock on the neighbors and be like, "Hey, listen, I'd like to come into your house. It was formerly my house." Uh, so that's kind of what got me into the paranormal. You know, my desire to understand what happened, um, and why was I experiencing that as opposed to anybody else? Um, I had a sister and she didn't have any issues. My father had no issues. My mom, like I said, literally just had this gray woman, uh, you know, walking around, and that was it. And I'm like, here I am getting everything. So I don't know. Dills, why now red? I, I don't know. I don't know. But how's it going, Donnie? How are you? Um, so I got into it because of my own desire, my own, I guess, seeking to understand what I was experiencing. And then as I further got into the paranormal, I realized that I could hopefully help other people, and help other folks ensure that when they're going home, and when basically when they're retreating from the world back into their safe haven, which is your house, right? That's where you go to feel safe, and you go to be comfortable. um for me, I hated going home. Most kids love to get off of school. They love to go home and play with their friends, and watch Dragon Ball Z. I hated it. I hated every second of it, and I very much so did not look forward to going home, because of that. And so I don't, I think that sucks. That's not something fun, and nobody should feel that way. And so my goal was to get out and help people and help them understand what's going on. I can't say that I can cleanse anything or anything like that, but I can at least give the tiniest speck of context to what they're experiencing, and hopefully make them a little bit more comfortable, so that they don't go through some of the things that I did as a kid. So.
Steve, that kind of thing we hear sometimes. Was there any instance of, or were you at any time afraid of anybody at school picking up on the fact that going home was something that you dreaded, and maybe thinking that there was a situation there that was of a domestic kind, let's say, not a paranormal kind, because that could be something that could arouse suspicion if they picked that up from a kid?
Yeah, I think I hid that pretty well. What I would do was pretty much perfectly fine getting on the bus, but as soon as I got off, I'd drag my feet like hell. And so it was one of those things where I would just hang out outside, or I'd toss my bag in the door. If as I got older in the in those 2 years, and I gained a little bit more responsibility. If my parents were working, they gave me a key so that I could let myself in, grab myself a snack, start doing my homework. And so typically I would just hang out outside. I would sit on the back porch and do my homework and stuff like that. Or I would run in, grab my stack, and then run back outside as fast as I could. And it wouldn't be until my parents were home or somebody else was there that I would go into my house. Um,
Wow.
so I tried to stay away from it as much as possible. I mean, it was pretty freaky. Like looking back, now having the experiences that I've had, and the locations that I've been to, probably something that wouldn't scare me as much now. But when I was a young kid, and I had never experienced anything like that, that was very significant. Um, so I don't know, interesting stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, from the time that you were a child to, and those experiences to like now, what was the time frame that got you actually involved in the paranormal?
So I didn't get out to actually like feet on the ground investigating until I had my own car. So once I was 16, 17, that's when I started, going to like creepy locations. It wasn't until I got out into college and I kind of had my own income that I started purchasing equipment and then met other like-minded folks. I actually joined a group called the Richmond Paranormal Society, which is here in Richmond, Virginia. Um, and that was pretty neat. At first, I learned a lot, but one of the other biggest um, problems for that was it was a group of 3,000 plus people,
Whoa.
which is a lot of folks, right? And so it was one of those things where it was kind of like an interest group. And if you, let's for example say somebody lock down a location, they'd say, okay, we can take the first 10 people. And then the first 10 people that were sitting there at their computer, or, were on their phone or something, they would say, they would get access to whatever that investigation was. Being in IT, I was always one of those first people. And so I quickly found that while I was having fun and it was very interesting, um, I also had a lot of concern of being around people that I wanted to be able to trust while investigating. And it's very difficult when you go out and you start investigating some of these locations, and the people that you investigated with last time, it's a brand new set of people. You don't know these people from Adam. I mean, there was one guy that I remember investigating with that he walked in and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I just came from the bar. So don't trust anything I say." And I'm like, I am not going to be with this guy. Like I
Go back to the bar.
a couple hours later, I heard him singing. I was like, "Yep, I'm good." So, so it wasn't until I really got into like college, and then from there, after I was part of that group for a little bit of time, I met some folks that kind of had the same feelings, the same ideas. Like we want to be able to trust the people that we are going into these locations in the middle of the night. The lights are out. I mean, like you need to trust these folks. Um, and so that's kind of how we started building our team and kind of growing into what we are today.
Nice. Cool.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah, you have a great team too. We got a chance to work with you guys a little bit more than once. Most recent, I think, was the Gettysburg Bash last year. But a really, really good group of people and a really knowledgeable team. And that's important. So for people who are wondering if he just gave you some rhetoric or if that's the walk he walks, it is, because that's the people he's surrounded by are really, really good investigators.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a really cool team. I love the people on my team. We kind of work a little differently than some other teams. I want to say there's about 18 of us, which is kind of a large number.
Wow.
Um, and a lot of people would feel like there's probably a lot of infighting. There's not. We actually can all operate the team and run the team without, like, I don't have to be there, right? There's going to be an event coming up in a couple of months that I will not be able to be there. and so the rest of the team is able to run and carry it along without me. Like every single person on the team is able to do everything that needs to be done in order to have, a successful event or a successful investigation, research, etc. The way that we bring folks on is a unanimous decision. So it's kind of like, if let's say somebody wants to join us, we kind of have a fairly rigorous process. And then after that, everybody has a say. And if somebody blackballs you, essentially, then unfortunately that's it. And that sounds pretty rough, but we also want to kind of not, you know, rock the boat too much. Like we all mesh really well. Everybody's personality gets along. Nobody, everybody supports everybody. We all have kind of like individual endeavors. There's a few of us that um, have podcasts. A few of us that do jewelry and make jewelry. There's a few that do like painting and stuff. And so we all try to support each other in all of our other endeavors at the same time, which is kind of fun. So it's nice. It's a really good group of people that I can trust. I know, I can trust them. They can trust me, and we're kind of like a big family, kind of like you guys.
Sure. That's cool.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Really cool. All right. Well, we brought Steve on to look at some evidence.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Huh. Imagine.
So, Steve, on the one we talked about before the show, I'm going to save that one for last. So we're going to start with the audio. Talk to us about Creepy House Mama.
Okay, so all right, so I've got to think of the naming and convention that I had on these. So this one is at a place called Swananoa. It's on Afton Mountain in Virginia. And for those of you that are familiar with the area, the Dooley family, they own the Dooley Mansion that's in a park here in Richmond, Maymont Park. They built this huge summer home that's all out of marble, and it's called Swananoa because Mrs. Dooley was absolutely in love with swans. That was her favorite animal. So everywhere you look in this building, there are these crests with swans and everything. Really, really cool place. At one point, they had sold the location. The Dooleys no longer owned it, and so it had turned into a golf course for a period of time. And they built this little house on the way back of the property that I have heard was a gift shop. I've heard it was a caretaker's house. I've heard all sorts of things as to what it could be. We were out investigating this, and the movie Mama had just come out. So if you guys have ever seen that movie where the two kids and the mom has like died and they go out into the woods to find their mother, and this whole horror movie ensues. One of our teammates, Rhonda, is an absolute jump scare. Like one of the things, our bad habit is we love to scare Rhonda when we can. So sorry, Rhonda. But the movie Mama had just come out. She was freaked out about it. And so myself and two other of my teammates were in there with Rhonda. It was three guys and Rhonda. We were walking around this super, super, super tiny house. It was four very, very small rooms that were all connected to each other, just like a square. And so as we walked through, we would just be going like, Mama. and of course Rhonda was freaking out and everything. And so we decided to stop at one point because we're like, all right, we're done freaking her out. Like we're going to investigate. And this goes along with the EVP. We end up going into the basement. And it looks as if somebody had basically up and moved and left everything there. And so we are kind of like just looking around at all the creepy things that are in there. As we go back up the stairs into the kitchen, I think it was, three of us watch this girl with jet black hair and a white dress kind of like run across the door frame. And this is just the door to go, that literally goes from the basement up into the kitchen. She made absolutely no sound, but three of us that were walking up the steps saw her. Young girl. And so of course we like run up the steps to see if we can figure out who exactly is messing with us. We find nothing. house is absolutely tiny. There is no way that anybody would have been able to get out of that house. We also had a couple of investigators standing outside because a few of them refused to go in. They were like, "There's some bad juju there," and me being me, I was like, "I'm going in. Screw that." And so we see this, and so we, it kind of like spurs us to start going back and reviewing everything. And we recorded the EVP that I sent you, Chris.
Okay. So listen really close on the second portion of this clip. Because unfortunately, StreamYard kind of silences it a little bit. It tones it down. So turn your audio up, everybody. Here we go.
Well, that's quick. Wait, do it again.
I'm going to play it again. Ready?
At the very end.
Yeah.
The very end.
Did she freak out?
Well, we decided not to let her listen to the EVP until we were like gone and we had gotten home and everything. Because she probably would have been done for the night.
Yeah.
But it was pretty interesting to have this recording of this kid literally saying the same thing that we were doing. And what's interesting is that whole investigation ended up with one of my team members, Zach, pretty much bringing home somebody that really messed with him, and he messed with a number of the folks on the team, including myself, for a number of weeks until we were pretty much able to kick it out. But we had, tons of really odd experiences happen for the next couple of weeks, mostly happening to him in his home. But, we had tons of things like, for example, after we left Swananoa, we all gathered in a parking lot. Because typically what we'll do to like kind of de-stress after the evening, especially after we've gone to a location, we'll kind of all meet up somewhere else off the property, hang out for a couple minutes, kind of talk about our experiences, talk about what happened, and then we call it a night. And as we did that, we pretty much were, we had talked, we had wrapped up, we were all getting into our cars, and then I can't remember whose car, but one of the people's cars, somebody started knocking on the door. As like they had gotten into the car, and then immediately they heard somebody like knocking on the door. And so they thought it was like me or Zach or somebody like messing with them. So they opened the door expecting to see somebody. There was nobody there. In fact, like we were all still there, but everybody was in their cars. We had all like, we were all ready to roll. So it was a pretty interesting evening, and something intelligent in that nature where it was able to repeat what we were saying was pretty creepy, pretty cool.
That is cool.
Very creepy. Very cool.
There's that doppelganger dog that you were talking about earlier, Steve.
That's what I was going to say when he brought that story. I'm like, don't let whatever that is get to this house.
Yeah, it was weird. Luckily, we haven't had too much happen here. We've had a few things, but luckily it's not been anything crazy, because if it was, my wife would have murdered me by now. So she does not like films.
That's right.
And you have a couple of adorable little ones too running around there.
Yes, they are thankfully in bed. There's Chris. The story is terrifying at 3 a.m. Did I tell that story to you at 3, Chris? I have no idea. Yes, they are in bed. They are in bed tonight. But I do have an almost 2-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Yeah, they're very cute. They're very cute. We saw them in Hanover recently. Good kids.
Yes,
That's awesome.
keeps us busy.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one we got, Steve, is Creepy House Moan. So I take it this is the same place.
Yep, same place. And again, it was just in the building. Some of the EVPs that we had recorded just being in there. And I thought it was pretty cool.
All right, let's take a listen. Here we go.
Then we're done. It's probably just.
Do it again.
All right, I'm going to play that again. Here we go.
Then we're done. It's probably just.
So
One more
again,
time.
same thing.
It's like
Yeah.
One more time.
All right, here we go.
Then we're done. We're on your way.
So
That
you
might
can
be
hear
pain.
like you can hear me and Zach talking, one of the other investigators in there. But I mean, we didn't bring any children with us. There was no, we don't bring young kids when we are doing like actual research investigations. Um, so I mean, we weren't in that building for that very long, but to have all of these experiences um, was pretty interesting. There's Chris. Chris is on my team. You guys met Chris.
Yeah, Chris is awesome. Tony, what did you hear? What were you going to say?
Play it one. The weird part about it is, I mean, I've got surround speakers, but it's coming like from behind wherever the microphone is, because when it's played, I kept turning around. I wasn't sure if that was her daughter in her room making. It took me 3 times to even identify it. Play it for me one more time.
All right, here we go.
Then we're done. We're on your way.
Sounds like porn in the background, doesn't it?
Well, that's what I said. You guys like, it sounds like they're in pain. I'm like, well, that might be pain. That's awesome though, because I've never heard a piece of evidence played on our show before that literally came out sounding like it's behind me. That's well,
And
sorry,
that was just
one more time. Just one more time.
Yeah, and for everybody watching, what Tony's referring to, if you listen closely, it doesn't. Normal EVPs sound like they're laying on the surface or they're embedded into the audio.
Right.
This actually sounds like it's a surround sound.
Right.
Voice. Like it's coming through. I don't know how to explain it, but let's play it again.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Then we're done. We're on your way.
That's bizarre. That's awesome.
That is bizarre.
And the weird thing about that is this was many years ago, before I had we use Zoom recorders now, right? We have Zoom and Tascam. That's what we typically use. I had a Sony, I can't remember the model. I still have it, somewhere clunking around here, but it was just a Sony digital recorder, one mic. It was not omnidirectional. It was literally just a regular recorder that I picked up from Walmart. That you would use, for example, if you're university and you take a recorder into class, so you don't have to like write notes. In fact, I had used it for that, and so I was like, well, might as well get more use out of it. But it's not any special recorder. It was just a regular recorder that you could pick up anywhere. That we recorded these with, which is very weird, because you'd think, hearing it something like that, you'd think it would be like an omnidirectional mic. You could pick it up on more than one track.
Wow,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
that was really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it just shows the differences in how everybody picks up EVPs, and we've talked about it before, where you'll have 4 recorders in one area and only one recorder picks up the EVP, and it sounds like it's sitting on the surface. What the hell are you doing?
One more time, as they say in concerts. One more time.
How do you refill the fluid in that to get it to light quicker?
You'd be surprised.
Let's listen to it one more time. Here we go.
Yeah.
Then we're done. We're on your way.
Crazy. That's just crazy.
It is.
Wild. That's wild.
Okay, so I've got 3 clips here, Steve, and the reason I'm saying we've got 3 clips here is they're all from St. Albans, but I screwed up and I named 2 of them the same.
Okay, we will figure it out.
I'm going to play the one that says Grand Staircase first. That way you can explain that one to us, and then the other ones we'll play, and then you can explain them to us.
Okay.
So go ahead and talk about Grand Staircase.
So this one in particular, these 3 EVPs are some of my absolute favorites, by the way. All 3 of these were recorded at St. Albans Sanatorium. It's in Radford, Virginia. One of my absolute favorite locations. I love the folks there. I love everything about the location. They're very respectful of the building and of the spirits, the way that they carry themselves, and the level of the respect that they give this building, and the time and effort, right? One of my favorite things, and I can harp on this for hours on end, is the importance of restoring and preserving these historical locations, not only just from a research standpoint, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a big fan of just like walking out into the middle of a field. I would love to enter the building that whatever activity historically occurred there. I've seen tons of locations that one in particular that we investigated for a number of years, and then one of the counties nearby just decided, screw this place, and they bulldozed it. And it really hurt. So, anyways, St. Albans, they do a really great job there. They're active, kind of like a paranormal research center. They allow you to rent out the location. You can go in and investigate, and then the money goes back into the building so that they can continue to restore it and keep it preserved and whatnot. This was during the tour of the building. This was one of the first times we'd ever been there. It's absolutely massive. And so basically, they give you the option if you want a tour of the building so you know where you're going, um, you know, you can do that. And so we opted for that so that we weren't just kind of like roaming around, like chickens with their heads cut off later in the evening, which we did anyways because we got lost anyways. Uh, but this was recorded literally during the tour. Um, it is the only EVP that I have recorded of this particular kind, and you guys will understand in a moment.
All right, let's take a listen.
We have a whole list of entities that have interesting names. I just stepped into this office to see if y'all run into them. Y'all know if I saw them.
Nobody was singing.
Well,
Oh,
somebody
okay.
was.
There was nobody on our team, and the guide. You could hear the guide talking. There was nobody singing as we were moving through. And again, like I say, this is the grand staircase because for those of you that know St. Albans, there is a grand staircase. It's really pretty, absolutely wonderful photography, but it's not all that big. And so, in the time that it took us to walk up just those few steps, we recorded this female singing, and to this day I've not been able to extract any lyrics that I've been able to find online anywhere. I was hoping that I would be able to, take these lyrics or some of them, right? Um, get as least as close of an idea of what it's being said, and maybe I could find something on some sort of song or like a rhyme or something. I've not been able to find it. So if anybody does find it, please let me know because I still search every once in a while to this day.
It's really weird about this one is that is very similar to the woman humming that Audra and I caught down in Tombstone at the funeral parlor. It was the same thing. It was very loud. That's weird. That gave me the chills. It's pretty similar. Play it again.
Yeah.
Play it again.
All right, here we go.
We have a whole list of entities that have interesting names. I just stepped into this office to see if y'all run into them. Y'all know if I saw them.
Wow.
It's one of the weirdest things.
It almost sounds like you're getting closer to who's singing.
Yeah.
Right.
Clip.
Well, they're coming closer to you. Welcome to the afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive space. There's tons of rooms all around, so it's hard to pinpoint where exactly that would have been coming from. At that time, we had moved up to the Zoom mics or the Zoom audio recorders, so we were actually able to, pick up a little bit more. But it was wild. It was very interesting. I sent that to them almost immediately after recording that because I was like, I've never gotten anything like this before.
Wow.
I'm just curious, was the recorder that captured that? You said you were walking, so I'm assuming you had it on you, and so it wasn't sitting somewhere by itself. It was literally on you.
No, I had it on a rig. I carry a rig, like a camera rig, and so what I'll do is I mount the camera on there, and then I mount the recorder, the audio recorder on there, so that, like, if you guys probably know when you're carrying a recorder, like if you carry it and you're holding it in your hand or you have it in a pocket, you hear lots of static because your hands moving,
The mic's
and so you
getting
pick up a lot
shuffled.
of that. Yeah, you hear a lot of that mess. Or if you put it in your pocket, again, you hear it, kind of like rub up against your shirt and everything. So I mounted it to one of those U frames,
Yeah,
and
I'm
that
familiar.
way, yeah, like that way, I'm not touching the mic at all. I'm not butting up against it. It's not rubbing against any clothes. It's not hitting any of the pieces of equipment. Even just setting it up and picking it down, and then it's settling into wherever it is. Those sorts of things.
Mr. Dills, pick me, Mr. Dills.
Yes, Ron.
Question, thank you. So you're running it on a rig. You're running audio on the camera and on the Zoom recorder.
Yes, didn't get it on the camera.
There it is. There it is. That's amazing times 10 now. That's amazing.
Other people were also recording audio. So it was very weird. Courtney asked, have you been back there and tried to catch it again? I have been back there, I don't know how many times. And have not recorded that. I have recorded every single time I've walked through that area while we're investigating. I have not been able to get anything remotely close.
See, and Chris, how many times did we talk on this show about not only situational awareness, but being able to vet the authenticity of what you do to take that part of it off of the review section when you go home with it? He knew all the other devices and nobody else got it except that one thing. And the camera and that recorder were pretty much adjacent or right on top of each other. That's
right next to it.
That's more important in situations like this. And it's always something you should do. But when you catch something that is, and I think we all agree, that's exceptional.
Yeah.
You have to have those you have to have those things in place where 100% the entire situation, and that's no other device getting it. It's blowing my mind right now because that's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the times I see a lot of teams carry around video recording equipment in hopes of capturing something like preternatural. Most of the reasons that we carry around video equipment, and Chris can attest to this too, Vaughn on my team, we will utilize the equipment or the video recording. Like if we get something on it, obviously that's phenomenal. But typically we're setting it up so that we have ourselves and all of our equipment on screen. And we try to make sure that we are like, if we have two cameras, for example, on either side of the room, we want to make sure that we are pointed or looking towards the cameras as much as possible, so that you can see if somebody, like we always forget, like if we say something or we laugh or we chuckle or we whistle, you can so easily forget that you did that. And now all of a sudden you've got an EVP of somebody whistling. And so we try to use our equipment as almost to document what we're doing. Especially if you set your audio recorder down in the middle of the floor and then all of a sudden you hear footsteps in the same room as you. But, in reality, it's just, John over there kind of like tiptoeing for some reason in his chair. He's like tap dancing. Or we get jump scared by a pigeon and get it on camera. Yes. We did do that. That was at Sweet Spring Sanatorium. That is a story. That is a story right there. But,
that's good though. That's good advice for people investigating. We had EVP until it wasn't, and then we found out on the camera that it was a person.
What was that?
Where'd that other voice come from?
Did anybody else hear
weird.
Yeah, we heard
Yeah,
that.
I heard static.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a full voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Male voice, like a full sentence.
Yeah.
That was weird.
You just did a live
Doppelganger
DRV session. That's right, people. Only on EVPE will you see Ron's equipment just going to DRV mode without him doing shit.
That's weird because I don't know. I was talking, so I assume it could have been on this side.
Also heard it.
The audience heard it, which means it's on the recording, so we can go back and hear it again. But that was
that was weird. So what
the last time we had that, I was saying that we had like an amazing EVP in upstate New York one time until the video revealed that it was a person who didn't disclose that they had whispered to somebody there, and then then the air was let out of the balloon of excitement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which,
by the way,
the flip side is
I
good
know,
too,
as
because you can debunk it.
Yes. I was gonna say, as a side note, one time Lourdes and I weren't able to be on the show. We were driving back from being out of town, and Tony was talking about something, and he said white noise, and we were in the car, and Anthony Simonelli was watching it at his house on his tablet, and we heard the audio from him, and then Lourdes was just showing the video on her phone as we were driving, and then Tony said white noise, and some male voice went, white noise, and we went back to the recording, and it wasn't there.
That's
Wow.
weird.
Wow.
So weird shit happens with us, I guess. I don't know.
But at least he,
Well, that was strange.
Yeah.
at least he knew where he was at that point, Ron.
Right.
That's-
Well, I want to point something out too, that this is, I love having people like Steve on the show and people that are experienced with investigating that can also talk to some of the stuff that we talk about, is because we talk all the time about tagging yourself when you're going through a location with multiple groups. I mean,
Mhm.
for instance, I literally bought a giant, what the hell is that? Beer pong set. It's a big plastic beer pong set off of Amazon, because I go through locations and where I pick up, I don't carry equipment. Audra does, and we work together. But when I feel there's going to be I just get that energy sensation in a spot, I'll drop my recorder, but I put it on my red bucket. And then in the team's debriefing, I talk to the other groups and let them know, anytime you see that red bucket, tag yourself,
Mhm.
because that's where my equipment's at. And everybody knows. I mean, throughout the whole night, I'll pick, I'll be listening, I'll do a review, and people are going, hey, Chris, it's us. So I know it's people tagging, but the way you guys tag yourself is you actually record yourself, which is a fantastic technique, because when you're doing review, there's no doubt.
Yeah, we will. We try to make sure that we have video and audio. I mean, we'll do audio tagging too, and we'll mark things. I like the idea of the red bucket though, because a lot of times what we'll do is if we go to a location and we want to leave like a stationary um, audio recorder, then it's at least like, okay, this is mine. Hey, everybody, it's supposed to be here. Don't pick it up. Don't think somebody left it and forgot it. Because there have been cases where we're like, oh, somebody left the recorder. Let me go grab that. And then you've just killed somebody's audio recording.
Right.
Good intentions, but you kind of now they don't have anything.
You know what it also helps with, Steve? When you're 50 years old and you're running around a dark location trying to collect your shit, it's easy to identify where you left it in the dark. Yeah.
It's true.
If you set 6 buckets out and you landed with 5, then
You're missing a bucket.
I do that. My equipment case has cutouts for every single device I have, and that way I know that at the end of the night, if I am missing something from the cutout, and it always goes in the same spot, I know exactly what's missing, and that I can't leave until it's back in that box, because I'm not spending money on another one.
Right. And you know where that really helps is when you're doing a place like Trans-Allegheny.
Yep.
And you've got 6 buckets out or 7 buckets out, and you've got to go collect it at the end of the night. You don't want to have to run back up to the 4th floor after you've been climbing those stairs all night long, because anybody that's been there knows there's no freaking elevators in Trans-Allegheny.
No, that's climbing.
Yep. They're just. Oh, my co-host is reminding me. Everybody, in about 8 minutes, UNX is going to move over to their next audio program, but we're going to stay live with Steve. We're going to finish out his clips. We're going to make sure that he gets his shameless plugs in before the night's over. So stay live with us on Facebook and YouTube. Don't switch over. We're much better than the competition. So Race isn't here tonight. I can get away with it. All right. So the next 2 I'm going to play first for you, Steve, because they're both at St. Albans, but I got them both marked walkthrough AMJ.
Yes. Both of these, they relate to each other. Hopefully you pick the right one, because there is one that is actually contextually makes sense right before the other one. Either way, we'll get through them. But it is both from the very close area. It's actually very close to the Grand Staircase at St. Albans too. It's actually like right up the stairwell as soon as you get up to the top. So go ahead and pick one and let's see what we got.
Well, which one should be first, the shorter one or the longer one?
I think it's the shorter one first.
Okay, we'll start with that one, and then if we don't, we'll start over.
Yeah, we'll figure it
out. All right, here we go.
He went to bed one night, woke up, and he had died. A gruesome death, And
I heard that.
Yeah, I heard the
Mhm.
male
That's
voice.
the right one.
Was that the wrong one?
No, that's the right one. That's the
Okay,
right one.
good.
So this was actually recorded in what is called and referred to as Jacob's room. There is this popular, I'm going to say legend or lore about this basically this young boy that was dropped off at St. Albans. Now, St. Albans was a boys' school for a period of time, and then it was converted into an insane asylum. Okay, so there's a lot of history in this building. The first being the boys' school, and there was a lot of fighting um, between the kids, if I recall correctly. And somebody I'm sure can correct me if I'm wrong, but they put a lot of emphasis on like the more physically kind of adept boys, right? And so the ones that weren't so fit were going to get bullied a lot, right? In some ending up in death. So you've got a really dark history already with this boys' school and the way that these kids were treated, the way that they were almost like tossed into a caste system, and formed like, this group here, this clique is much better than this clique over here, and they were kind of given the thumbs up to go ahead and beat them up. Um, After that shuts down, you've got the insane asylum, um, and that's where apparently this Jacob comes into play. Apparently, he's dropped off as a young age at the front doors, and they decide, you know what, let's take him in and give him a room. For whatever reason, that immediately is like, that doesn't seem very plausible. Like, I'm not sure why you would bring a young child, a young boy in and give him a room at the insane asylum. That just doesn't make sense to me. Um, and so as the story goes, he's living there for quite some time. One night, either his door was left unlocked or it was unlocked, and one of the patients across the hall enters the room, rapes and murders him. And so that's why you hear there was a gruesome death. She did not want to go into that detail,
Mm.
um, but so you've got this stigma and this idea that there is this young boy that is, I guess, quote unquote, haunting this room. Um, and that's what almost every paranormal team that enters that building go into that room and bring a toy, leave a toy, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
And they focus on this young child. The idea that there is a young child in this room that was brutally murdered, and he is still here for some reason. Um, to date, I have a buddy of mine that is actually doing a bit of research to try to identify if a Jacob, a young boy, was there. And there is no evidence to prove that this this child was there ever. Um, doesn't negate the fact that we are getting EVPs and audio recordings and actual activity when we focus on younger like a younger form of interaction. For example, I was getting interaction in that room just recently. I sat down and I read the Jungle Book, and I had something kick off a REM pod every time it wanted me to flip the page. I would say, hey, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reading the Jungle Book. All right, and it was like the Disney's, like the Golden Classics, right, the kids version. And so I was like, if I'm going to read the first page. If you want me to continue, I need you to turn on the REM pod, and then I'll move to the next page. And I literally read that book, page for page for page. When every time I'd finish the page, REM pod would go off. Then I moved to the next page. So it's interesting because you have this ideology that there is this little boy in there, but there is zero proof that this little boy is actually there, which also kind of leads a little credence into the Philip experiment, the whole idea that you can actually create
Create.
an entity just based off of so many people believing it and putting that effort and that idea and that energy into that space, that now you've got some sort of figure. The other thing that I have kind of, I guess, postulated or theorized is that um, Jacob could be um, a second personality or another personality. There was again. You guys hear that?
Yes.
I heard that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a DRV. I'm hearing like sound like DRV.
White noise.
It's a whole other voice.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like Chris was saying, one of the things that I'm still toying around, like how do I build a like a research project around this, but the idea that Jacob was like a multiple personality, right? This was a secondary personality of an individual that was spending time there um as a mental patient, right? And Jacob was this alter ego, this alter personality that he was a young boy. And so it's interesting because again, we are still for this EVP, we are still on the tour. We literally just recorded this sound of this woman singing. We've gotten to the top of the stairs. We've taken a left, and we've walked into what people refer to as Jacob's room, and we recorded what you just played.
Okay,
Wow.
play it again. It was really quick.
All right, let's play it again.
Yeah.
If you listen really close, it almost sounds like he's saying that's horrible or something to that effect. Here we go.
He went to bed one night, woke up, and he had died. A gruesome death, and
Oh dear God, is what I heard. Let me play that again. This-
Yeah.
I hear,
it-
but it also is going to influence you immediately.
he went to bed one night, woke up, and he had died. A gruesome death, and
there was a breath as well. Yeah.
Do you hear the
I hear-
breath? Well,
I hear what Chris heard.
Yeah.
When I listen to this, I hear a younger boy saying, "I am Jacob,"
oh,
like almost in a whining manner. I am Jacob.
Okay.
Play it one more time.
Yeah, let's play it again.
well, and listen, there is after he says that, then there's a as well.
Here we go.
he went to bed one night, woke up, and he had died. A gruesome death, and
Yeah, I heard. I heard.
I heard it. It's just
Yeah.
very faint.
Yeah.
but
I heard
it's
Jacob.
The
Yeah, I
breath
heard
may
you.
have been one of us, just because, like, oh my gosh, it was a gruesome murder. You know what I mean? So that may have been one of us. So I don't want to say that is anything.
Okay. Okay.
But the "I am Jacob," or what I hear as "I am Jacob,"
I heard that.
Yeah, I heard it.
is
It's like that.
this young person. And for those of you that are aware of St. Albans or have been to St. Albans, they do not allow children into the building for a multitude of reasons. But safety and being key. But you cannot enter the building. I think you have to be at 18 or older. I think 16 if with a guardian. You are not in that building. So having a younger kid or an EVP of what seems to be a younger kid saying
No.
"I am Jacob" or what I believe to be "I am Jacob" is pretty wild, especially in that room.
It sounds like I am Jacob. Just as a third postulation for the idea there too. The other thing is that if we all subscribe to the idea that there isn't time-space restriction and non-locality of spirit, that could very well have been a spirit that's Jacob that wasn't manifested like the Philip experiment, nor was it ever resident to the location, but it just happened to be there, or it came in either through or with somebody. So there's other possibilities. If you wanted to test the Philip experiment theory, it would be good to see. With all the people who go through there to go down the Philip path, you'd want to see if there was trending in what the responses recorded are, with correlation to the people who were there and what they may have logged as questions they asked or thoughts that they had about the incident. So you could see if there's trending to the data. Then you could make a case for, well, when this group here and they focused on this, that's what it did. And then your Philip thing takes more, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's fantastic. That catch is really, really good. And I absolutely heard it.
Yeah, after you said that, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's there. That was a great capture.
The interesting thing about this is, I guess to me, the most interesting thing about this EVP is when you pair it with the second EVP that I sent you. And this second EVP was recorded not in Jacob's room, but right like almost immediately after we left Jacob's room. We took a right and we started walking down this long hallway. And I believe that's in the King Center. For those of you that are aware of the building, but we literally walked out of that room and started moving down the hallway. And so we're walking in this next clip, but you can hear a very, very familiar voice.
Okay. Right before I play it, I want to point something out, guys. We talk about situational awareness and how to debunk your evidence and know where your evidence is coming from. Steve is giving some great examples. He knows exactly where they were. He knows exactly what they did right before it. He knows exactly who's with him. And then on top of that, he's got the camera facing him on top of it to validate his situational awareness on top of it. That is huge when you're investigating, especially knowing who's with you so you can negate all the extra voices and huffs and puffs. And I really love the fact that, hey, we heard a breath, and you're like, well, you know what? That could have been one of us. We weren't for sure about that. That's true investigating right there, guys.
You always want to toss those things out. I mean, for me, it's one of those deals where it's like, if there's any doubt in my mind that it is one of us, I toss it. We toss it. The whole team. We just can't use it. And I think that adds a lot of validity to some of the experiences and some of the things that we're recording and having, bearing witness to.
Yeah, well, because you know what? The thing that's important that you're an example of from the beginning of the show and anytime we've ever worked with you is integrity isn't a one-time thing.
That's right.
That has to be fostered, it has to be nurtured, and it has to be shown as habit, as the rule, not the exception. So that's what's important about that, really, to me.
Yep.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, it's got to be the constant. Otherwise, it's just haphazard.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Good word. Yes.
It's haphazard, and in this community that we're in, we're already open to criticism as it is. So you have to have that integrity and have that basis of integrity going into everything that you reveal and show people. Otherwise, you're leaving yourself open to all the skeptics to tear you apart.
Yeah. You don't need a smoking gun. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm full of caca.
Well, it's difficult, man. You need to have a lot of that because it is a pseudoscience. I mean, it is what it is. It's a pseudoscience, right? And so, until we bring some validity, and I know another friend of mine is working on building out a series of guidelines, right? And this whole idea of like, this is how to document what you're doing at a location, how to document it, etc. And I think that's really important. I don't think a lot of teams think about that. Like when you're doing a recording, one of the first things I always like to do is time, date, and location stamp where I'm at. I also have every single person in the room say their name, and that way, I say I want say your name and where you're from. That way, it brings a little bit of a level of personality and personability to whatever's there in any capacity, whatever is trying to communicate or interact with us. It knows my name is Steve. I'm from Richmond. It gives you a little bit of idea of what's going on, and it gives a little bit of a bridge to build a relationship with whatever is there, right? Thanks, Brittany. But the other thing is I now have an audio sample of everybody that's with me. And I try to not have them, we try not to move too much around the room while we're doing that because, Steve sitting here versus Steve sitting over there is going to sound different. It's going to show up a little bit differently on the spectrograph as well. And so having that data is very important. Also, knowing what time something occurred, because if I can say, okay, I started recording at, if I can get down to the second, that's what I try to do. Because if I say I started at 10:04, I don't know if I started at 10:04:02 or 10:04:58. And that then you're skewing all of your data if you're trying to line it up with somebody else's recorder, line it up with somebody else's video camera or a DVR system that's in the location, et cetera, et cetera. So like being able to have multiple angles and multiple pieces of equipment that are picking up whatever you're experiencing, to me, is like one of the most important things and also one of the most interesting things. Because we know that like, all of us here could walk through a location and hold the exact same audio recorder and, one of us is going to get an EVP that nobody else is going to get. So it's very important to be able to document everything that you're doing when you're doing it. Call out, if you ate tacos beforehand and now you sound like the mariachi band walking through the building. Uh, so, like those sorts of things are super important, and we try to teach that when we do public investigations too, because it's like if you're like trying to like secretly snack on something, well, now we're going to hear it. It's just a
Right.
matter of what do we document it as.
Right. Well, I like the fact that you have everybody say their name and where they're from too. That is huge. Situational awareness is not just who's with you, who's around you, what's going on, what type of floor are we talking about, what kind of doors are we working with, what kind of walls are we working with, what was the temperature, what's the humidity. It's not just that. It's you have now identified everybody's voice is distinct, has a distinct tonality to it, the way people talk. Now you've just eliminated anything you're picking up in a review that you don't know if it's somebody talking or not, because you can identify those voices because you've had them speak.
Exactly.
That is huge.
And that way we can, if you forget that you said something, then I can look back and say, oh, okay, well, this is in your typical, your typical wavelength for talking.
Right.
Like this is most likely you, and then we just toss it.
Situational awareness is absolutely huge to knowing to what's going on around you. And with that being said, the audience again heard that voice while Steve was speaking, but I want to do a little experiment. So, Steve, I want you to say, don't say it yet, but I want you to say, I'm Steve Dills and I'm on the show. And while you're saying that, turn your head all the way to the left and back to the screen while you're saying it.
You mean go this way or this way?
Well, that's your right. So, yeah, to the left.
Okay. I'm Steve Dills, and you're watching the show.
Okay, start talking and then turn to the left.
Test 1 2 3 4. Test 1 2 3 4. Test 1 2 3 4.
I didn't
Hello,
hear
hello.
it then, but when he turned his head, the mic
picked up something.
I don't know if he pulled on the strap but
I'll move this up a little bit.
Yeah, but the first time it happened, Ron was talking and Steve wasn't moving.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was a voice.
That's true. That's true. Okay, I wanted to test it. So,
okay.
Yeah,
what's wrong with that?
Gotta get those theories out there.
Hey, Steve, the other thing I love about the way you do that is that whole concept of taking what we do into a lab for science to have their way at it. Scientists who want to examine, right? Part of the problem with that method or that approach is that the context, when you remove the context from the evidence, you're changing the recipe in essence, right? So the atmosphere and the environment could be organic to what's happening. So you have to bring the lab to the location. You don't bring the location to the lab. And so that's methodology wise a scientific approach. And so many teams will say they're scientific. That's a great example of it because you're in the lab that you work, right? Astronomy, anthropology, these are field sciences. They're not in the lab. So what we do is in that same bucket. Those are respected as sciences. So should this.
Yep, I agree. I mean, and that's, a lot of people say that, well, you can't reproduce in a lab. And I'm like, yeah, but, it's more of a field thing, like you said. And so, one of the things that we're looking at now, and again, another team that we work with, CPRI, and Ron, you met them at the tavern.
Good people.
They do a lot of environmental data collection. And I love that. Like, it's something that you don't really think about when you're moving through some of these locations. And it's important, first off, because we've been seeing a really neat trend where we're seeing spikes in or like sharp changes in barometric pressure that align with recording an EVP. We've also seen spikes in ionizing radiation as soon as, like, immediately before, during, or after experiencing some sort of preternatural phenomena. That could be an EVP, it could be an AVP, it could be a door opening and closing, like whatever it is, anything, the whole 9 yards. But we will see a very localized change in the environmental variables. And to me, that's like really, really cool. And that's why, like, timing and dating everything is so important, because when I'm looking at like my Geiger counter and I see this massive spike, right, that doesn't really allude to what happened on video or audio at that time. It just means that, 50 minutes after I turned on my Geiger counter and I set it down, we saw a spike in ionizing radiation for a second. Now what does that mean? Like, and so now I start tracing it back, and I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at all of my environmental data to understand, like, what else happened. Did we see a spike in EMF? Did we see a spike in barometric pressure at the same time? And then what occurred? Did we hear it, or jot down an EVP? Did somebody see something? Did somebody hear something? Did something move? Like, the whole, it's just wildly fascinating when you start looking at all the data and you start connecting the points. But you need the context. Like you said, you need the context. It's like listening to an EVP, and you're like, you hear somebody laughing, or somebody talking or whatever, or you see a video and you watch a spirit walk by. Like, that's great, that's cool and all, but like, what's the context around it? What else happened? Something else had to have happened. And what's the history behind the location too? Like, there has to be some sort of historical significance that whatever the spirit is decided now is the time, and it's right here. It's not like next door, it's here in this house. That whatever is occurring is occurring. So I love, like, trying to build out as much context around an experience as possible, because I feel like that gives you the best, really the best way, or the best opportunity to understand what you're experiencing.
Well said.
Very well said.
Yeah, that's corroboration. That's why we pay all the money to have all the toys.
That's right.
Lots of money.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought we got that stuff for free.
I wish.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's what those credit cards say. But
All right, so let's go back to Jacob. So
Yeah.
this is the second one that happened just immediately after the first one. All right, here we go.
So he's everywhere.
Wow.
whoa.
So again, like I was saying earlier, very familiar voice, right?
Yeah.
When I went back and looked at this, it was the same voice.
Yeah.
Hit the same wavelengths, same frequency, and everything. But to me, and we can play it again before we say what I hear, but it was very interesting the way that EVP lines up with the previous one in Jacob's room.
Yeah. One more time.
All right, here we go.
So he's everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
No
I can
clue.
tell you what I hear, but I'm interested to see what you guys think you hear too.
I hear something about sleeping. Why not sleeping, or something like that.
There's one also in the beginning. It says hiya, and then
You
the
know what?
kid.
That's the other thing I was going to ask. Is that there's a similar voice in the beginning, but I can't tell if it's the EVP or if it's one of your people.
I think it's one of the people, because the EVP starts like kind of in the midst. When I cut EVPs, what I try to do is I will give a little bit of a couple seconds beforehand and a couple seconds afterwards. So it's not like, listen to this EVP. Like, here's some context. Here's what's going on. We were walking. You can hear, like, if there was a question beforehand, I try to include the question. If there was a follow up, I try to include that follow up question, so that there's a little bit of context. So I believe that was one of us talking.
Let's play it again.
Thanks.
So he's everywhere.
It doesn't sound like your team, but it sounds like EVP, like the kid as well.
Oh, it's no doubt it's an EVP. I mean, I agree with that completely.
I thought I heard "Oh my goodness" and then something else. I couldn't tell.
Oh, you're talking about no? He
The
said
beginning.
that was
Thank
his
you.
people.
Yeah, the beginning. I think that was probably one of us.
Okay.
What do you think
You
it
want me
says?
Yeah.
So I the consensus that we came to is this is a very similar voice saying, "Oh my poor little Jacob."
I heard "Oh my." Yeah. Let's play it again. Here you go.
So he's everywhere.
With that context, it was clear as can be.
Yeah.
Was that voice at the end part of it too when it sounds like it said he's with me?
That was somebody talking. That was like a
Okay.
human. That was a human person.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I hear at least out of it is, oh my poor little Jacob, which is kind of interesting, right? Because if the very first EVP that we listened to earlier was I am Jacob, and it's in the same voice, and then like why would you say I am Steve? Oh my poor little Steve. You wouldn't say that, right? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Contextually, it makes no sense. So my thought is maybe what we're recording is not Jacob, and I am Jacob is not Jacob. And oh, my poor little Jacob is also not Jacob, but maybe it's something mocking, either mocking this entity that is Jacob, or this spirit that is Jacob, or the ideology that Jacob is a thing, a spirit that's there. Um, but to me, it doesn't make sense that oh, my poor little Jacob is also the same person that is Jacob, and it's the same like
Well,
same
it
wavelength,
also depends on where the
everything.
enunciation goes to on the EVP. Because what about the possibility that this actually occurred there, but they've got the name wrong?
Yeah.
And the first one is I am Jacob is actually I'm the person they're referring to as Jacob is what they mean. And the second one is oh my poor little Jacob, meaning I don't know. Oh my, maybe maybe it's just not like you put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, you know?
Like
Could be.
he's in the wrong
Right.
spot.
Yeah, our thought led immediately to like something mocking,
Yeah.
right? And this was, when we were investigating, this was one of our first investigations there. We had not done any research on Jacob or the idea that Jacob could or could not be a real person. We were under the pretense that Jacob was a real person, a real boy that had lived there and had passed away there. It wasn't until much later when we started doing some actual research. Actually, this EVP, these two EVPs, was what really sparked our research into the idea of is Jacob real? Um, because it to us it sounded like somebody was mocking Jacob, like mocking this experience that this boy went through, which the very first jump for us was, oh well, it was the guy that was across the hall that broke into his room and raped and murdered him. Um, and that's immediately where we went. Like, oh, okay, it could be that. Um, but we don't know because we haven't been able to prove that he's real. Like Chris is saying again, under the assumption of Jacob being real, it could be Jacob saying both, but just mimicking what he said. It could be. But
Yep.
we have yet to find any data suggesting that Jacob, as the idea of Jacob being a young child, an actual young boy, we haven't been able to prove. And I
Has
haven't seen,
any
I haven't
other
seen one.
has any other team gone through there that you know of? Documented anything to do with recording the name Jacob?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so much so that when we went in there, we were told this is Jacob's room. And that's what it's referred to. If you talk to anybody that knows St. Albans, and you say, "Yeah, we were in Jacob's room," they will know exactly where you're talking about.
Well, you could also go with the theory too that you talked about how the boys were mean to each other. Maybe this is the spirit of one of the boys that used to be a little asshole, right? And I mean, 8, 9, 10-year-olds before they hit puberty, some of them might sound the same. Maybe that's a different spirit mocking Jacob because he was a little asshole in life. So he's
be.
still a little asshole. You know what I mean?
But the problem with that is if it was
That's our dog.
a younger boy from the boys' school, then they would have never met. Jacob would have never met, theoretically, this version of Jacob being Jacob.
Not in the physical world.
Yeah, exactly. Not in the physical world. And so that's something we have to keep in mind is if we are under the pretense that and I think Ron, we've seen that where spirits are able to communicate with each other. But if we're under the idea that they are these singular things that are maybe they're not intelligent, right? Which in this case it kind of lends itself the credibility that they are intelligent in this sense, at least. They never met, and so it's difficult. We don't know. I don't know. We don't know that Jacob's real. And that's what I kind of like about this EVP is there is something. There is
Yeah.
we have context. There it was again, by the way. I just heard that.
Did you? Yeah, I heard it too.
I heard it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's me. My mic's not hitting. I moved my mic up.
I didn't
It
hear anything
sounds
that time.
Sliding door to me.
Yeah, it was like a whooshing sound, like wind coming through.
Yeah. Well, and what's really weird is I can pretty much verify that everybody here with the type of equipment that we're using, we don't pick up white noise on these equipment.
Not yet.
Maybe it's
We're
a
working
satellite
on it.
dish.
Yeah, might be the satellite dish next door.
Yeah.
That's right. Or the Reynolds wrap that you're sitting on.
It's a spy
Or your,
satellite.
or your beeper.
It's a spy
Yeah,
balloon.
Pager.
But
I think you just bought a new hair dryer, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
It's that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Probably.
Cherie's voice will come out of that hair dryer later tonight too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
But yeah, we don't know, and so that's the thing I like about this is it still is kind of like one of these unanswered things for us. Like we have an EVP, that's great, like that's cool and all, but having the context and understanding around it is very, very important. And we have some, but to us it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, right? It
Right.
doesn't add up, and so we don't have a full picture. There are some EVPs that we have a full understanding of what went on, and historically it lines up. It makes sense. It fits the narrative, and it's actual documented that we know who this is, or theoretically know who this is. So it's pretty interesting.
All right, so
Save the best for last.
I have saved. Well, I can't say that now because
Oh,
all of
that's true.
Steve's shit's been good.
And I haven't seen this yet. So.
So I'm the only one that have seen this one. Actually, I was the only one that's seen all of it before now. But this one is a video clip, and it's a little over 6 minutes, and it's going to give you 3 different views from 3 different cameras in the same room, catching activity. And Steve, before I don't want to tell him exactly what happens but there are candles in this room in this video. Tell him what type of candles they are, Steve.
Yep. So we are moving now to Hanover Tavern. And unbiasedly is one of my favorite locations. Has nothing to do with the fact that I'm the president of the nonprofit. But we're going to go to the Hanover Tavern, and this room in particular would have originally been the dining room for the home portion. The tavern, if you were to look at a picture of it, is actually 2 structures that I like to call have been Frankensteined into one. And so when people say, "Oh yeah, we've been at the Hanover Tavern," it's actually 2 buildings. This section is the home portion. It's where the tavern owners would have lived, and this particular room was their dining room. We know this because of some of the architectural pieces and the fact that there is a door that leads outside, which would have gone to like a winter kitchen sort of thing. This room, for the longest time, was decorated as such, just a very basic, plain dining room. Didn't have a whole lot going on in there. At one point, we turned it into a exhibit for Civil War artifacts and relics, and had some really crazy activity occur in there. Actually, one of the very first times we investigated, we couldn't investigate that room because the whole exhibit was on loan from somebody, and the agreement was it had to be locked. If it was unlocked, then one of the foundation members was inside. Security cameras were being run at all times, et cetera, et cetera. We go and investigate. We're standing near the room. We're not in the room. The room's locked. None of us have a key. Nobody has the key. Even the guy that was with us did not have a key. And we hear this glass crashing, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "I'm done. This is it. This is where all of my life savings is going now into this whole collection of relics that is now destroyed." And I didn't actually even get into the room at all. Next morning, we got a phone call that the executive director went in, and nothing was out of place. So that was very relaxing. Like I was very, very happy that nothing was destroyed because I was very worried. And so we had this experience, and then nothing happened for a while. Then we had this idea of utilizing the room as an escape room, as a way to bring in more money to the foundation, and we wanted to do something that would fit kind of the history of the building and the time period. So we selected just after the Civil War, and we decorated the room in Victorian era kind of decor. So lots of pictures and paintings all over the walls, lots of things, because in Victorian time, the more things you had, the more wealth you had, right? And so you got to like get as much junk on your wall as possible. Um, we decorated the room. One of the things that we don't allow is open flames in the building. And so we wanted to recreate the lighting that they would have had at that time, which was candlelight. And so we purchased these candles, these electric candles that to turn them on and off, you have to walk up to them, pick up the candlestick, and twist the bottom. That was how they turned on. And then if you untwisted them, obviously they would turn off. And then we would set them back into the candle holder. Yeah, Melissa's the one with the most junk wins. And so that was how it was decorated. We had these candles that when we were doing the escape room, we'd go and turn them on for our guests. And we had all these cameras in there because we were utilizing the cameras to make sure that they were on track. You only have an hour to escape, and so we wanted to make sure that they were progressing. If they had any questions, they could just yell at one of the cameras, and then we could, hey, look for this clue or whatever we had like these set words. So we recorded this on, I think it was a Monday or a Tuesday. The tavern was closed. If there's audio with it, I think, Chris, you have the audio. You mentioned there are footsteps. There are footsteps. There are 2 people that were in this building, and this room was locked up. Typically, when we're done with the escape room, we unlock the escape room, the guests go in, we lock it back up. And the reason for that is because if you guys have ever done an escape room, you don't want people to just randomly walk in there ahead of time and get hints and clues as to what's going on and have a faster time than everybody else. Nobody was in the room. It was locked up. Nobody had done the escape room since that weekend. I think it was Saturday that somebody did the escape room. So everything was locked up and closed. Our executive director was in the building and our educational director were in the building. I get a notice on my phone because we're using Wise cameras that there was motion detected. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me check it out. And so I popped open the app and I saw something, which you'll see in the video. I then proceeded to call Kendrick, who was our education director at the time, and I said, hey man, listen, it looks like you forgot to close up the escape room properly, because we had this whole checklist, everything, because we're not going to waste batteries and stuff just because you're leaving stuff on. And so I said, can you do me a favor? Can you go down and make sure you closed up everything, because it looks like some stuff was left on and left open. Takes him 6 or 8 minutes, I can't remember how long it was, to go from his office on the 2nd floor down to the 1st floor, unlock the door, and walk in. And when he walks in, he finds the last bit of the video. So I don't want to give anything. I feel like if I said anything else, you'd give it all away.
Right. So quick question. The candles, when you turn them, do they click?
It's the twist.
When you twist them, does it twist? Does it twist and click?
I don't remember.
We had some of those. I don't believe they do.
I don't
It's
think
just
they
turning
do.
it far enough to turn the contacts to make it light up. And then when you turn it back, it turns the contacts away. So there's no click.
It's kind of like those silly mag lights.
Okay.
I don't think there's any click. I think you're right, Tony.
Okay. And there's also one thing I wanted to get to before we do the video.
Froze.
What the heck?
What the heck
Yeah.
is going on? It changes.
The noise just happened again, and all the screens just moved.
Yours all moved too?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, you guys are. We're the only one that didn't move.
What the hell?
It's doing that again.
Steve is frozen. Ron's out.
Yeah.
Did you hear the noise right before the screens moved?
We didn't hear anything.
It went, shh, and then all the screens moved.
They said that okay, there we
Are
were
we timed out?
froze.
It's 10:30.
No, it doesn't time us out. It doesn't time us out.
Huh.
That was
That's
definitely
Let's ask
something.
our audience. Our audience, can somebody comment real quick? Can you guys still hear us and see us?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still live, and the live clock did not shut down. So
Okay, Steve says that's what I see you guys here.
yeah, Mary Beth says I didn't hear anything. You guys just clicked off.
Well, everybody else is saying they still hear us and see us.
Mhm.
Wow.
Oh.
There's Steve. Let's bring him back in.
Hey.
And remove the frozen Steve.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. That was weird.
Where is Ron? There's some freaky shit happening tonight on EVP, guys. Well, what was weird is before Steve, you probably couldn't see it. We heard that again.
I didn't hear it.
And then
basically
yours
it
and Ron's
froze for
screens
me.
flipped.
And then we flipped.
I saw that because I have both. I have the Facebook stream up, and so I saw where I froze in StreamYard, and I could still hear you guys talking and whatnot, and on Facebook. So I was like, I guess my internet went out, but no, it's very weird.
I think, Steve, you brought something with you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hey, Ron's back. I was just recently donated 3 supposedly haunted dolls, so I'm still trying to figure out if that's legitimate or not.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
And
so when you guys were talking a minute ago, I kept saying, "Can you hear me? Can you see me?" After the thing happened, and nobody was responding, but everything looked normal to me. But that screen thing, Tony and Sheree didn't move, and it was like shuffling cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you say I don't know where I'm at?
I
don't know where I am.
Hey, what?
I don't know where I am.
I don't know where I am.
What was really weird is Audra and I heard the right before that happened. That white noise, we heard it right before everything started flipping around like 52 pickup.
Oh yeah, the on Facebook, it's interesting because on StreamYard there is no 5th screen, but on Facebook there is a 5th screen still showing as my last connection.
Well,
Right,
your last
and
connection
I
is still
cannot
there,
remove it.
but I can't kick it. If I kick
No,
it,
neither
it may
can I.
kick you
You have it
too.
again.
So we're just gonna leave it, y'all, and just watch the spinning dial. We're actually it's subliminal messages.
That's just frozen Steve.
So let's get to Steve's video before the spirits screw up the show again.
Let's just leave it.
All right, everybody. So pay attention. Try and remember everything we just talked about before the spirits jumped in and started screwing with our shit again. And yeah, I can see it on Facebook.
Yeah.
That 5th screen is still Steve, but I'm afraid to kick it from the show because I don't want to kick Steve at the same time. So here's the video.
Frozen.
No, he's not.
He was a few seconds ago.
All right, here we go.
Wow.
There's so many things going on. I hear it again.
There's the voice again.
It's like the RV. I'm telling you.
So a few of the questions. I know I posted it on Facebook, but I saw some of the questions in YouTube. The footsteps and the walking and the talking, et cetera, et cetera. That was just our staff that was there. Our executive director was there, as well as our educational director. So there were two people in the building. They were actually upstairs. Sound travels incredibly well in that building. So I don't think that there were any EVPs. At least anything that is, we tossed out if there was anything. The audio recording on those mics, as you can see, is not all that great because they're pretty much used for security purposes, not for like collecting data and collecting shirt balls. They're not for collecting like audio, right? It's mostly for video. The building is near it's called Route 301. It was is frozen. We're all back.
No, we changed it. Chris is
Oh, I know. We
I
all
don't even know where I was. I was talking.
Moved again.
Route 301, you were saying.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Ron, we're back in the same spots. We're back in our original locations now.
We're not.
We're not.
No, you guys are changed now.
That time it moved everybody.
You know, before he goes any further, did anybody hear the noise in the video we just watched, which
Like a
sounds like
swooshing.
what we've been hearing all night long?
Yeah.
Yes.
A swooshing.
Yeah. It's the same sound we've been hearing on the show all night long.
Yeah.
It's magic.
Which is weird because the way you pipe it in, I guess theoretically, it's not going to just play anything on your desktop. You have to load specific like bits, right?
It's China. Wonder if there's a balloon flying over.
That's too funny.
That's funny.
Okay.
But yeah, so it is close to a highway, by the way. So like you'll hear those trucks and cars. That is legitimate actual trucks and cars and whatnot. And then the lighting, like, because I know that some people have said that they see things on the walls or shadows and whatnot. That's just the cars and the reflection, because it was like 2 p.m. in the middle of the day. And so that, oh, look at the puppers. So that was just the cars passing by. The preternatural portion of that was the candles turning on. And you saw it in 3 different angles. Well, I guess really 2 different angles. 2 of the cameras are like almost directly next to each other. But the fun part about that is when I was setting them up, I set up 2 of them so that they were in night vision mode 24/7. And then that one that you saw where it actually turned into daylight, I had set that one up correctly. So they have all since been set up correctly because of this incident where I was like, why is it still in night vision? That would be operator error.
That is a fantastic clip. That is a fantastic clip.
That was so. It's like the lady of the house is just going one by one, turning on the lights for the late afternoon. Yep.
And that's what we're thinking. This was the very first time that room or any room in the tavern, since the foundation purchased the building in 1990, it had not been decorated in Victorian era style since Victorian era, right? Prior to that, it was a slew of different things, including the tavern. It was a post office. It was a boutique hotel for a little bit, apartments for a little while, and then in the 1950s, a musical, or I guess a theatrical troupe known as the Barksdale Theater came down from New York. They purchased the building and turned it into the very first dinner and a show location ever.
Wow.
So there's a lot of history to the building. But it's interesting because we still have those candles set up in the building. They're in other rooms now. They're not set up in that particular room. We actually have a new escape room set up in there, but they do not turn on anymore. We've had them turn on, well, just once. And I tend to equate, if it just happens one time, it's probably like a faulty battery or something like that. So we kind of toss that one. But having every single candle in the room turning on one after the other in a what was it, clockwise or counterclockwise, I think maybe, starting with the front door, like the door into that room, the room that you would have walked into, is just weird. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
That was phenomenal.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, we have reached the part of the show we call shameless plugs. Tell us where people can find you, what you got going on, what you got coming up, anywhere people can see you.
All right. We have a lot going on. You can find me and my entire team on Transcend Paranormal on Facebook, transcendparanormal.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter and all those sorts of fun social media websites. I am also on the television show The Ghost Finders. I am the historian there, so you can find me along with the whole cast and crew: Dan Kloss, Megan Deputy, Rob Thompson, Melody, Knapp, just Heather, Max, all of us, everybody is all there. see, I can continue talking until the cows come home, but I feel like everybody should get some sleep. So you can find us on Paraflix. So you can watch me be weird on video. And then we also have a lot of events. In March 11th, we're actually going to be investigating the tavern. So if you want to come and investigate with me and my team and actually get into that room and some of the other rooms of the tavern, come on. We're going to do that. We're going to do a place called Scotchtown. So if anybody is a Patrick Henry fan, then you hopefully know where Scotchtown is and what it is, and all of the really dark, macabre things that occurred there. We will be at the Bash with Mr. Ron here. And I guess all of you guys. I'll see everybody there.
Yeah, we'll be back again this year too. Yep.
I don't know. There's a slew of things that we haven't even announced quite yet. There's a lot of Paracons that'll be. I'll be at the Rochester Paracon up in New York, which is kind of cool because I've never been that close to Canada. So thinking about maybe sneaking to Canada just for a minute, just to say I've been there. Lots of places, and I'll be at EnigmaCons at St. Albans. So if you want to come and check out St. Albans, I'll be there. Strasbourg Paracon, Ferry Plantation Paracon in Virginia Beach, so you get your beach on. That's a really cool place. But lots of things coming up.
Awesome.
Lots of things.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Steve. That was some great evidence you had for us tonight, man. Thank you so much. And
thank you guys for having me.
The way you investigate and the way you vet your evidence is just phenomenal. And I hope people were taking notes tonight.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Notes between the shuffling.
Yeah, between the card playing.
That was
situational awareness.
Yes. We did it on purpose.
Yes. Got to mix it up a little bit.
Well.
All right. Once again, we had too many people come on in order to thank everybody, but we do want to thank everybody for coming out and watching again this week. Of course, EVPE will be back next Monday at 9:00 Eastern Time on UNX, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. We will be back. Same people, same time, but who will be missing next week? We're taking bets.
Don't know.
Don't know yet.
Well,
all right, guys, thanks for coming out. Go ahead.
Let me say this.
I don't know where I am.
That is so awesome. He didn't show up tonight. I'm disappointed. Anyway,
that was the funniest clip, man. When you showed that to me, I was dying.
You can't beat that. It has now become a GIF. Yeah. Anyway,
right.
Thanks everybody for coming out. Remember, if you want to be weird like Steve, you want your candles to light up, or if you just want to debate and listen to Jacob whine, you got to watch EVP. You got to visit with Steve Dills. But most of all, you got to stay haunted, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Good night, guys.
Thanks.
Can you give me a name? What's your name?